Hello, my name is Herman Singh, and I'm a CPA, and I've been in this profession for more than 35 years. Public accounting has been great for me, and today what I want to do is, since this profession has given me so much, I want to give back to the community. And what I would like to do is I have certain Excel sheets that I've gathered uh, throughout my life that I feel would help you to uh, get organized. And I feel the audience that will be helped by this uh, worksheet would be somebody who's starting out or somebody who's at the intermediate level and they want to explore and they want to get a little different perspective on bookkeeping or accounting or record keeping. Basically, the Excel sheets are the tools that accountants love. It's something that makes any accountant's job a lot easier. And if you follow these worksheets that I'm about to share with you, your accountant will love you. He will be like, he will be blown away by your, um, gathering, organizing your data. So basically, what you do in accounting is at the basic level have your receipts, your deposits, you tag them, income, non-income, and then you have your expenses, business expenses, and sometimes there are certain personal expenses, which we do not like to see personal expenses being made out of a business account, but then we won't have a perfect profession if there weren't any hiccups like these. So when I have an initial meeting with a client, I usually tell them that no personal expenses need to be channeled through the business account. That's number one. So once you have that key information memorized and in your memory, and then you will not be, having too many issues later on. So the so I hope you find value in what I'm about to share. So thanks. Okay, so let's get started with the Google Sheets. Uh, I've called this External Master Checkbook Register with Financial Groupings. Now, I will leave a link. This link will be, you'll see it below on the heading. So feel free to download it. Let me know if there's any improvement that I need to do, or if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer those for you. And so just the overall, basically this is like, it's just a checkbook register. It's got all the components of a checkbook register, and basically checkbook register on steroids, because I've linked every item, every number, every row here has been tagged to the categories. As you can see, the categories are here. So every item component in there is tagged to one of the items in the categories. So these categories are flowing into the financials in essence. So each and every component is linked to expense, income, asset, liabilities, or equity categories, one of the categories. So this is one register, and I'll go over all the aspects of this, and we'll do some of these examples, a couple of examples, or basically, well, I mean, we'll do 5 examples. So you'll be able to, we'll look at how these items are interrelating to these financials, on the financial statements. So, so basically that's worksheet number 1, which is a simpler format for the businesses. So basically, you can use this as your main checking account. If you have a business account and you input all the components in here, and I've seen, actually, I recommend people that even use QuickBooks to use this register initially, the first year of them using QuickBooks. They use this register and then they get familiarized with the QuickBooks and see how the components are interrelating. And then they still, some of them are still following it. They still use it in addition to using QuickBooks because they know that they can, it's easy sometimes to refer to this than going and looking into QuickBooks. So, I mean, that's a benefit of this. So the work that you put in, it's a lot of work that you put in initially, but once you are used to it, it will help you in the long run. As an accountant, I will tell you, if I call a client and I need something right away, let's say I look at something that they made a purchase of and I need to see the invoice. The clients that are organized will be able to get me that invoice within 2 seconds because they know exactly where that is stored and it's linked. So to me, that's a great client, and I want to make sure that I maintain that client to the utmost, attention. So basically, he'll get my attention. So I will not be hesitating to call him or her because I know they're going to provide the information right away, and I'll be able to continue on with my work instead of putting a stop to it because I'm on that certain thought process that I want to complete it. So anything that hinders my ability to work, the workflow would also have an impact. So think about that as well. So I'm giving you like a little bit of an accounting psychology along with this worksheet. So later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, I've got this bank account with payroll as well, which is that sheet number 2, which is included in this worksheet. So you can, if you feel that you can utilize payroll as well, and I've included that component in here as well. So I'll scroll down and I'll give you, and I'll share that with you, and we'll go over this in a separate tutorial. We'll go over how we calculate payroll and how we expense it, and you will see that I have here for the payroll, for payroll tax only, I've got certain expenses here that you will see that we've not placed that in the other operating account, bank account. So when you see this, you've got these liabilities. There are payroll liabilities that are calculated automatically utilizing this worksheet, which really helps quite a bit to understand how the flow of payroll works in terms of accounting. It clarifies, it puts everything in a very simplified manner, I believe, initially, because you're so overwhelmed with everything initially. And then that mindset somehow does not does not give you the whole picture. And this basically, uh, you'll see each and every component as to how it works, and and how it kind of develops. So as you get more and more comfortable with this process, you'll actually understand the accounting programs that you use a lot better. So if you use any external accounting program like QuickBooks or anything else, you'll it'll help you in terms of your whole approach as to how your mind works on this. So basically, so let me just give you just a little synopsis of what this is. So what I would do, so here, so the first, you would name the bank, and you could do all kinds of stuff, just to make sure that you there's a bank register, bank name. You could put the account number if you wish, whatever you like. Okay, so you've got the date here. So let's put the date, today's date, 02, let's say 18/2022. And we have a type. So basically a type would be, it's a check, it's an ETF, it's a deposit, etc. What is it? So basically, let's say it's an ACH direct debit. And we don't have, well, an item number would be if you have some sort of a reference point of, let's say, a check number or ACH direct debit, or let's say the bank, I have an item that, the bank, you have a confirmation code of ACH direct debit is, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Pick a number. And it's, let's say that's to Spectrum. Spectrum, okay. And it's a withdrawal of, let's say, $200. There's a withdrawal. So the first thing, we don't use number 8, the row number 8, because we've left here to put a balance. So let's put a balance in there first. Let's say our ledger indicates from 2/17 that there's a balance of, let's say, $2,000 there in our account. So put that in there. So now we'll keep track of running balance on our account here. So basically, okay, so what is this Spectrum? This is for telephone, internet. Voila, and then we've got an expense. So it's an expense. So it's basically telephone expense, you can say. So we'll put that as expense. Expense. And then we go to subcategory, we can put telephone expense. All right. So now we've got, okay, so this entry here is automatic because it sees that the entry was made for an expense. And then since it was a withdrawal, and then anything that is withdrawn is a decrease. So basically, the way the checkbook register works is that it relates to cash. So basically, it's a cash balance here that's decreasing when you have an expense. When you credit this, in essence, it's a credit withdrawal. The money's coming out of that account and it's going to somebody else's account. So it's out of your account And as far as the expense is concerned, it's a debit. So it automatically sees that it's a withdrawal and it has to go to an expense. So it's debit that expense. So basically, this component here is your financial statement component that we're gonna generate the financials out of later on. So each item here, which is tagged, is gonna create a financial. It's gonna help us to create a financial statement. So let's say this is a dentist's office and they've got some income also. Let's put some income. So today, let's say they've earned 2/18, 2022. They've received, let's say they're going to make, let's say it's a deposit. I don't know. And I don't know, deposit ticket number or something. 23-234. So the pair is, these are various patients. Or we can put names, whatever whatever's easier. Patient's name, or you have a list of your ledger that you maintain separately, and then equals that for the total that your deposit would be that, or from the credit card company, all that you would put separately each and every component that you deposit here. Instead of one line, you could have 3 or 4 components. Whatever makes your life easier, you would just input that. And let's say you've done $2,500. Deposit, okay, that's 4,300. And this is revenue. And then this is income. Income component. And then tab. Here's a income. And then let's see, where does this go? So it right away goes to income is credited for 2,500. So it sees that the income component is there. So the income component is going to go into your income category. And then it sees that the deposit was made here as a debit. So your cash went up. If your cash goes up, you have to credit your income. So your income goes up too. So that's why it automatically is tagged this way. So if you see here that, let's say we refund. So Spectrum says, hey, we overpaid Spectrum. You find out that the bill should have been like $200, or let's say the bill should have been like $150, and you've paid $200, and Spectrum is generous enough and says, we owe you this money back. So let's say they send us this money back on 02/23/22. So that'll be your deposit. And let's say that's 567, and that's from Spectrum. Oh, it's a good thing about Excel, it memorizes and fills the information in. So let's say they've given us $50 back. So $50, our cash balance goes up, and then telephone refund. Refund. So here we have an expense, which is not really income. It's a decrease of an expense. So this should, so once it's expense here, it automatically decreases our expense. So theoretically, when you net these two, our expense for telephone should be 150 because the other is refunded back to us. So this is you're seeing the interlinking transactions that are coming into play for financial statement purposes. So when we do the subcategories here, income and subcategories into a formula, uh, there's like a VLOOK formula. Basically, it groups all the telephone expenses, all your income in one line, and it generates the total income and total expenses for you out of this data set that we've created. So this is like a nice way of looking at the whole picture, the complete picture of your business in a one spreadsheet without, and it also keeps track of your checkbook. It keeps track of your financials because most of the time it's only one aspect. Okay, you can maintain a good control over your check register, but you have no idea what's going on the other side of your financials. So here it's keeping your an eye out for everything, every component. So let's say that you have now let's say doctor has this dentist has withdrawn money for his for his own personal use. So let's say 2/24/2 it's a check. So he writes a check to himself for 500. Let's say item number is, let's say check number is 437, and it's to Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe writes himself a check for, let's say, $1,000. Bingo. So here, it's not really a salary component. He withdraws money out of business, let's say as an S corporation. And so we'll call it an S corporation distribution. S corp distribution. So that'll be a component of equity. Equity. So the equity is going to be, it's going to be under the equity section. We call it distribution. So the equity is debited for $1,000. So in accounting, everything is a debit and a credit, debit and a credit, debit and a credit, debit and a credit, debit and a credit. So if you're a student of accounting, even you could find, you could find this very useful, because I remember early on, when I started in the accounting profession in 1986, boy, there were some bookkeepers, man. They were so good. I was just absolutely amazed. And you're just graduated from from college, and you think you're an accountant. Boy, you got slapped around like all over the place by these bookkeepers who had been there forever, and they taught you. So basically, I would befriend them. They would be my friends, and I would try to learn as much as I could from them. And boy, if you were on their wrong side, they put you in your spot right away. But But that's how it is, I guess, in any profession, I suppose. But but this is a good, it's a good tool to learn and understand how the accounting worksheets work. So this, these days, I think with QuickBooks becoming so popular, you kind of, it's good to have a system that I think where you can see the flow of data and how it works, throughout the system. So every item here which is listed has to be tagged to the financial statement. So that way you can have a complete control over your financials, and then you can sleep better at night as well, I think. So I think as we can do one liability as well. Let's say you have a loan from a certain bank, and you get a statement from them that says, okay, out of this component is interest, and this component is principal that's being paid back to the bank. So what we need to do here is the interest component should be shown as an expense. So let's say you're paying, or you're paying an interest of, let's say, to Wells Fargo. Fargo 224 22. And let's say you're writing a check, even though it should be really a direct deposit, ACH. Let's do an ACH. ACH. So you'll have two ACHs, one for the interest component and the other one for the liability component. But the statement that you have would list both these numbers. So let's say the item number, again, 1654. So the withdrawal, let's say out of the 2100 is liability, is a note, is a principal back, principal payback, and 350 is interest. Okay, so now that makes it a little clearer. 350 is interest, and then we can put that as expense, and then we put that as interest expense, interest expense. And then we have on 224, ACH 1654. We want to use the same Wells Fargo, and the amount is 2100. 2100. Bingo. And the amount is, we'll just take this and copy it there, and we make that liability. Liabilities, I think that's what I have tagged it as. Hopefully, nope, liability. Okay, let's see. What did I tag this as? Liability. So let's change this to liability. liability. Okay, so our liability should be a debit. It's gone. Our liability has gone down because we've paid our liabilities of $2,100. So that's a debit. So that's our tagged. That's our, and then we can, the subcategory would be note payable Wells Fargo. I mean, even if you send this worksheet to your accountant, he can tag all this information if you feel not comfortable, or you can just put down, I don't know. There's another, like, in QuickBooks has this category, ask my accountant. You can put that category in here. Any expense that you're not, that you're not sure of what to do with, you put that in there as to the I don't know category, ask my accountant category. So basically, this is a good place to start, and it gives you a good flavor of what how this financial groupings are getting work done. So basically, I mean, so on a debit income side would be if you refund a customer, let's say the customer that came in that we, let's say we have 2/24, 2022, we give them a check, and the check number is 438, and that's for patient, and just name a patient, Mrs. Smith. And you paid, and she said, okay, you owe her, let's say $100. $100, we would have patient refund. And then you have, that would be out of your income. Let's just say income, because it theoretically could, I just want you to see how the debit on the income side would work. So here, it'll go into your income. Once I've tagged this as income, it knows that it's gonna take an item from this side of your withdrawal and automatically reflect it on the debit side of your income section category. So it's, I mean, you really don't have to think of debit and a credit in an accounting point of view. But if you just follow these certain principles, you'll know which category to put them as. So this will say patient refund. I know some doctor's office have this patient refund. They overpay the insurance money that needs to be refunded back to the customer or the patient. Then they have these patient refunds because they've collected first from the co-payment or from their patients, and then they end up sending it back, or even to the insurance companies. So sometimes the insurance companies overpay, and then they send them a bill later on and say, okay, we've overpaid and we need you to refund our overpayment, and then they have to send that money back to the insurance company. So there are all kinds of things that are happening. But this is something which is easy to kind of see the whole picture unfold, and then you're seeing the whole transactions being recorded in an orderly fashion in this manner. So if you're any business, the only thing that this would not work with is if you have inventory. Sorry guys, I can work on that schedule also. Since I've got bank account with payroll here, which I'll go into by next uh, section. But I don't want to overwhelm you guys with uh, with in one worksheet with so many things. But this is like a good introduction to how these worksheets are supposed to work and how Excel works and how Google Docs works. And again, I'll leave a link to this external master checkbook register with financial groupings down below, and you'll be able to get organized right away. So thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to help you in your endeavor on your business journey. Thank you.